songs of Martin Page, all day, all night, forever. So grab a cup of tea, settle down with us in the Owl's Nest. Hello, my lovelies. How are you doing? We're back again. We are here in the Owl's Nest, and if you hear anything in the background that seems really strange, can you hear it? Yes, that's my washing machine. Again, a gasket has gone. I think on a previous show, a gasket had blown, and it's blown. Listen. Yes, like a monster. A monster's coming to get me. And maybe I shouldn't dry my clothes or wash them while I'm doing a Radio Owlsnest show, but I just think it's a casual thing to do while I make a show up. Very unprofessional, I must admit, yes. Drying clothes while I make a radio show. But you know, it's a family show, nice and warm and cosy, and here we are on Radio Owlsnest, making noises together, and thank you for being here. We shall ignore the beast behind us, the mechanical beast, and move on with this show. Now, you know what it's all about. I think you do. It's just my songs. Yes, it's just my demos. It's all my work I've done as a songwriter from eons before. And let me play you now a demo that has, yes, not been heard before again. A rarity. There's that word again, rare. But this is a song called Fine Line, and I wrote it with a writer I never met, actually. I think it was a lady called Terry. The beast is coming nearer. But my jeans will be really dry. A lady called Terry Cox, I believe. All the publishers were sending me lyricists to work with because I'd worked with Bernie Taupin and had success, and they thought, just give him a good lyricist and something will happen. And it's a shame I never met this lady, but I was intrigued by this lyric that came through on the fax machine. Yes, right back in the days of fax machines, just like a drying machine back there. Yes, old, mechanical, making noises, yes, all that stuff. But this lyric I thought was really quite strong, and I pulled out of the vault this quite intriguing demo. I remember it was in the 90s, and I was using a Lin 9000 drum machine, a DX7, all the analog keyboards, and it was just me in my studio with a 16 track. But let me play it to you now, and I'll tell you a bit more about it after. This is a song called Fine Line.
Got diamonds on your fingers, there's glitter everywhere. Love's become the color of the clothes you wear, and all the things that you'd say to keep me by your side. But honey, someone was lost when something in you died. It's a fine line between dead or alive, a fine line between truth and a lie. When you got something to sell, you're not one to tell. Oh, baby, it's a fine line between heaven and the place you fell. Beginning, when your dream was brand new, there were still many things you wouldn't wanna do. Now look at you, now look at you, at the bed you made, so much. Honey, you're out of time. You're out of
There's a demo from the 90s, I believe. Right back then, yes, the prehistoric age. I feel so lucky that I kept all my demos. Just got to say, I think about these shows and that I had a feeling that you had to keep all the cassettes, all the DATs, all the quarter analog tapes, everything, even the 24-track tapes. I kept them all and marked them all up. And I feel so fortunate, even when we moved into the Pro Tools era, I still had all these connections that I could pull on. I have to thank Mike Rodriguez, a great friend of mine who made sure that all these demos would fly on Pro Tools as all the generations of Pro Tools changed. Anyway, I was just knocked out to find this because I really, 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 as these shows prove, haven't heard this for the longest time. Written with a lady called, I believe her name was Terry Cox. I can't remember the publisher who sent the lyric to me and told me maybe you want to write this, but I can see that I was that they would have thought this is a Bernie Taupin kind of lyric. I can hear a lot of those nuances there, and as you can hear, I'm singing very much in that Elton John kind of vibe, which has surprised me. I didn't realise I was sounding so much like Elton John back then. Must have been just because I was working with Bernie. Sometimes you take on the atmosphere of what you're around, and I'm slapping bass there. Of course, I came across from England as a bass player back in the 80s, and I took the bass very seriously, and I was good to hear that. The bass was actually, it sounds like worked out quite hard there. And the Lin drums, the programming of a drum machine. First time really we were really getting into the what a machine drum could do, and the toms were sounding very ambient. So all the samples we were using sounded like big drummers, you know, those big rock drummers. I can hear that we were thinking that at that period. And the BVs, I really quite like. Towards the end, I really, again, it's like listening to some other artist. I go like, those BVs, those backing vocals are quite good. Me playing a guitar solo of sorts, staying quite close to the melody because I'm not really a guitarist, playing through a Rockman, a little unit that made your studio sound like you had big amplifiers there. And it's really trying to make a demo sound live and big and wide, as in those 90s, early 90s, I'm sure this is the early 90s, we were trying to do. For fuck's sake, who is that opening the vault door? I told you, keep away! Sorry about that. Anyway, I have no control of this studio. Some of the faders come up, as you've known through the years, if you've listened to these shows. I have no control at all. Anyway, that song, Fine Line, written with, I believe, a lady called Terry Cox, and I hope she's doing well wherever she is. I don't think this song was ever recorded, except by me. And there's a rarity. Well, it's lovely to have Trevor Thornton back with us again. Popular demand. They said the first show was so great, we've welcomed him back to the OwlsNest to join me in another hour show.
Well, actually, I never left. I couldn't get out of the house. You wouldn't let me leave.
You know, I've been hearing noises under the stairs. That's where you went.
I've been in the basement for the last week. And
I can smell it. I can smell it. You've been down there, haven't you?
And plus, your petunias need trimming, and the lawn.
That's right.
The lawn.
And
so
you have to remember that when we did the first show, I did find out for the first time that Trevor, before he was a drummer for me, he was my gardener.
I was Martin's gardener.
Now, that is unusual for a songwriter to have his drummer become his gardener. But Trevor Thornton, who recorded with Q-Phil and doing Dancing in Heaven, was, in fact, my gardener. And the roses were never watered enough, the daffodils never grew, and the grass was pathetic. I think Trevor should have stuck to being a drummer. It's a song from the Poetry of Collisions Volume 2, my demos. I know a man.
I know a man who will come when you call. I know a man who will bring you a rainbow. Count the ways and the steps he takes to get to you. I know a man who only breathes when you breathe. I know a man who dies every time you leave. Sun and moon he gives to you. This I swear. Can you hear his prayer? Tear out the pages, bend the book, and give the past one last look. Don't be afraid anymore. He's waiting at your door. I know a man who lay a flower at your feet. I know a man who will walk in your sleep. This night when you cry out for him, look into these eyes. I am that for all the times you lived and died. I saw a man right by your side when all the rivers ran so cold. I saw this man protect your soul. Can you see him? He's still standing there, waiting for you. Sun and moon he gives to you. This I swear. Can you hear his prayer? Tear out the pages, spread the book, and give the past one last look. Don't be afraid anymore. I'm waiting at your door. I know a man who can't live without your love in his hands. Feel the tremble of his touch this night when you cry out for him. Look into these eyes. I am that always watching over you, day and night, night and day, always watching you.
I must admit, I like that song. And I do like a lot of my songs. It does sound embarrassing to say, doesn't it? When you're a songwriter, you go, I love my song. Well, there's a few I don't feel too good about, but that one I do feel my heart is pulsing for it. That's called I Know a Man, and it was on a album of mine called The Poetry of Collisions Volume 2. Yes, there was a Volume 1. This is Volume 2. When you think about it, volumes. That gets me excited. I remember all those Tighten Up reggae volumes on vinyl I bought as a kid, and also the Motown Chartbusters. I think it was Volume 1 to 6. I like volumes. And Mr. Page here, I have my own volumes. It does feel pretty good. Poetry of Collisions, Volume 1 and 2. We are being called into the depths of the darkness and eternal doom. Oh, Ingo, you have such a sexy, deep Barry White kind of voice, don't you? Yes. Yeah, but don't overdo it. We know you're a big, sexy, bouncy boy. So what have we found here in the Pagey archives? Well, about 2 shows back, I talked about working with a great Welsh singer called Steve Balsamo, a very, very talented lad. And I mentioned that there were 2 or 3 songs that we didn't get to do. And there was a couple of songs he was very, very interested in doing at that time. He listened to one of these songs, the one I'm going to play you, and he said, that's one I wouldn't mind attacking, having a go at that. It's quite an esoteric song. I really sort of did it for myself. But it's called Samsara. Samsara, quite an unusual title, I suppose. But if you were into Buddhism, you would relate to it. And Steve, at that time, was obviously a very spiritual guy. He'd been before the lead singer with Jesus Christ Superstar in London, been hugely successful with that. And here he was about to do a solo record. We were writing for that. So I knew he was looking for something that would feel spiritual to him, a little bit deeper than what all the publishers and record companies were saying. You have to go to Mr. Page and get a commercial song. Well, he was also interested in really, I think, revealing another side of him. Now, samsara, yes, the word, what does it mean? It's a Sanskrit Pali word that means world. Buddhists conceive of the world as a suffering-laden cycle of life, death and rebirth without beginning or end. Yes, rather frightening that, isn't it? Known as the word samsara. Beings are driven from life to life in a system by karma. I'm sure you know that, which is activated by their good or evil or bad actions. Now, I saw samsara also as quite a beautiful, feminine-sounding kind of name, and I wrote this, I think, thinking of a person, actually, a lady called Samsara. Well, without further ado, I shall play you the 16-track demo from the beginning of time called Samsara.
Samba kuno tindra bushichetuna, shintu chambi, kuchitseyo.
Drifting away, I'm swimming in your almond eyes. So deep, my lady of the east, I meet you by the banana tree. Shine true, Amanda Lamu, I will lay with you in peace. My endless heart, my morning star. Oh, samsara, you light the dark, and I fall apart. Oh, samsara. A white lace, a precious jade, the mystery of your face, the way you wear your braided hair, I'm helpless in your grace. Where I go, everywhere I roam, your name is etched in stone. Mandela sand, your healing hands, love your touch has brought me home. My endless heart, my morning star. Oh, samsara, you light the samsara.
16-track demo from way back there, I think, again, from the 90s, a song called Samsara. I was doing, as I said, some writing with Steve Balsamo, and I was playing him a few other demos to see if he was interested, and he said, I'm quite interested in that girl Samsara, but we never got to get Samsara to meet him. Anyway, a little eclectic demo there. Morning Eclectic. I listened to this radio show in LA, well, the radio station KCRW. The Morning's Eclectic. I think they might have played that. Now, here is a interesting track for all you songwriters out there. This is me and Jack Hughes from Wang Chung jamming, making up a song as we go.
Put on your sweater, pin up your head, I'm not sure where we're going to get there. I said, hey, hey, baby. I said, I love you. Don't cry. Give it up and give it your head. Oh, London day, London day. When we're together, dun 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 later. When I feel la la la. Dun 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 later. London day. Looking for something, like some weed in the rover and my heart beats. Colonies streaming out the sky. I'm busy I'm running down in nations and trees. I know and everybody please. When we're together, London guns and lighter. When I feel la la la. Turn that big cathedral illuminating. I love it in the wind and the trees. We got a message for everyone, please. Let me know. Dun 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 later. When I feel la la la. Dun 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 later. Love burn when I feel oh love. Dun 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 later. La la la. Dun 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 later. Love me. All it needs.
That's me and Jack Hughes. I think it was late 80s. We got together and we just jammed, and it's a song that we tentatively, I think Jack wrote some of these lyrics out and it became Big Cathedral. We never finished it. That is just phonetic vocals from Jack. I think we did 3 hours together, but I do like the feel, and it was nice to find this. I was watching the Get Back movie for the Beatles, and Jack and I are both huge Beatles fans, and the way you saw Paul McCartney building up Get Back, that actual track, was fantastic, and the way they were sort of finding their way, and that's why I wanted to play this to you. Jack is such an incredible singer, and you get this is just one take. He just said, let's just do a phonetic jam vocal. Totally never finished. I mean, we just walked away from it and found it many years ago down the line. But I just wanted to illustrate what it's like when you just do something instantaneous, raw, and get the feel, and you do a phonetic vocal, which I always love to do in my demos. But you could tell with Jack there, with his great swing vocals, great funk vocals, that I believe this track could have turned into something really quite wonderful. So anyway, that's a Ruffy showing two songwriters grooving, jamming, trying to find their way on a song that tentatively was called Big Cathedral. I gotta say, working with Jack was very, very powerful to me, because he has a very different way of seeing harmonics than I do, and you can hear that on Big Cathedral, this jam. He has a tremendous sense of jazz harmony, and I hope that Jack doesn't mind me playing this rarity. He might be driving over to my house now with a revolver, who can tell. Well, before I get shot, this is the middle of the show, nearly about 30 minutes in, and I'm just riffing. In the past, we used to do a quiz, and about 3,000 people in mental homes now because of that, and as I said before, I still feel very guilty about that. So I'm just going to riff on some subjects that I think you might find quite interesting about me. And I sat down this morning and wrote a few notes, and I thought motivation is a great word, especially for songwriters, and I thought I should speak about what it was to be a songwriter, how to be motivated, and what really I did to turn myself in from being a slob in Southampton and a soccer player into being somewhat of a professional songwriter. Some would argue with that, but I'm going to call myself a professional songwriter. So what's the motivation and the kind of things that I did back then to make sure that I turned into something I wanted to be? Well, I think the most important thing is desire. That word that the Buddhists would say, maybe not a good word, but desire to do something that you absolutely love. Something that turns you on, really, as the Beatles would say. It turns us on, turns me on. I thought songwriters were the most important element of what a little vinyl record was. When I bought a record, I looked at who the songwriters were in brackets underneath the title of the song. Lennon-McCartney, Holland, Dozier, Holland. It just hit me that I thought those guys who wrote this song must be so important to the process. So maybe I can portray a few things to you songwriters out there, whatever, what really got me going and kept me on the march and disciplined to do the thing that I loved. I think you've got to love it. You've got to love it. You've got to listen to music and records and go, I want a piece of that. That still remains with me. I think that focus, that desire. I remember when I was about 17 years old, I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life? And I went to the Top Rank Suite and danced and drank too much. But I did see the band on stage, and I thought, they're distant from us. They're doing something that we want to do. I remember watching the band playing all the hits of the time and thinking, a musician is actually creating the atmosphere. He's making people feel good. And I did feel a positivity in music. So anyway, that's where I started thinking there's a better life than just being in a council estate in Southampton and fighting people. I went to the Top Rank Suite in Southampton after a few fights and watched musicians on a stage, risen up from the level of the ground, playing songs that I loved from the charts. And I revered those musicians. I revered the magic they were performing. So, what do you do to be a songwriter? Well, you have to do a lot of things. You have to study, and be disciplined and focused. And you have to learn an instrument, whether it's your voice, whether you're a lyricist, whether you are going to be just a songwriter understanding piano, guitar, bass. You have to learn what music really does. So for me, personally, as a bass player, I learned all the scales. I wanted to be a bass player. I'm 6 foot 9 inches tall, very tall, 6'2" actually, and I thought bass that resonates in all these records means something to me. I want to be a bass player. But when you become a bass player, you start to learn about songs. So learning an instrument is really, really great. And when I played bass, I had to learn the scales, I had to learn chords, and I had to learn how rhythm was built up. So from bass, you learn the drums. And from bass you learn the lead vocal, and from bass you learn what the piano player's playing. That was my journey anyway. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to get a sense of what it is to understand the rudiments of music before you become a songwriter. It's not a sprint, it's definitely a long distance run. And one of the most important things is, again, I have to say, right in the middle of this conversation, is desire. You do not stop. You just keep learning. And you learn every element of what it must be to be a musician, touched by music. That means learn about, for me, home recording, the basics of engineering. How do you make a demo? How do the Beatles make their records? The technical side of it, making a demo. How do you record what you're singing? So it's really important to get a sense of every aspect of those records, those streaming songs that you like. You have to know there's an engineer involved, a producer, there's musicians, there's a songwriter, there's a singer. Learn a little bit about every single thing. Now for me, I was a bass player, but from that spread the wings of touching all the other elements. And you need your heroes. You have to emulate people that have done it before you. And I found a lot of those because all I did was buy records. And I think it's really important to visualize, see yourself as that songwriter. Because what you see in front of your eyes, in your heart, in your mind's eye, you will become, I believe, the thing you desire. And also disappointment. It's really important to fail. I remember for me personally, every time it went wrong and we didn't get a cut or nobody liked the song, it just revved me on. I thought, well, I've got to win. I've got to push harder. What am I doing wrong? And I had a little bit of anger inside me that they couldn't see that what I was going to be. So that little bit of, shall we say, competition is very healthy. Also, you've got to have a character where you sell yourself. For me, I had to make friends with great professionals. Charisma, and it's good to be liked, it's good to be loved. Others that see your vision, that follow you and join in with you. Well, that's just such a brilliant thing. And in my own career, if I could lift other people that were skillful around me to believe in my dream, well, then you're all on the same path together. You can't do it on your own. You have to build relationships. Nothing is achieved without a team. So you have to be a person who can sell and get close to the kind of talent that you want to bring with you. And the most important thing is writing songs makes you happy. I knew that if I stopped writing songs, I wouldn't be alive. And I felt like you can't stop me doing this. It means so much to me. Even though all the early songs were crap and everything wasn't really happening, in your heart you think, this gives me so much joy. And I know I'm lifting myself and others by writing songs. So I think it's really important that if you're going to be a songwriter, you realise you're going to be a songwriter, and it's the only thing you can do. For me, it was like, if you take away my songwriting, I will not be able to breathe. I know that sounds grand, but I lived for it. Obviously, in the earlier years, you live for it a little bit more than you do in the later years. You become mature and you look at it a bit different. I'm just trying to impart to all those songwriters out there that are pushing is that you live for it because it makes you happy. Now, I mentioned Southampton, yes, down by the coast, pirates and boats. That's my heritage. Here's a folk song that I wrote for Robbie Williams a long time back called The Admiral's Daughter, and it's from the Poetry of Collisions, Volume 1. I do like those volumes, and it is track 6. So become a pirate with me just for a moment, and let's do a bit of folk. Arr.
There was a girl I was courting. She was the Admiral's daughter. Well, what was I thinking? She
She was the road to my road.
So tip your hats and away we'll go. Push away the boats and row, boys, row. Look over your shoulder for the bullet boys' guns. There's a bullet with my name on, so where we'll run.
Aye. She caught my eye in Bristol. I never seen such a pretty pearl. And I was soon in her again, when the marriage bells are ringing.
And I left the poor girl weeping, for I promise I was not keeping. And all the vows I swore,
I left her standing at the church.
so tip your hats and away we'll go. Push away the boats and row, boys, row. Look over your shoulder for the bullet boys' guns. There's a bullet with my name on, so where we'll run. So I took myself to hiding on the Caribbean islands. And one day I was spying a tall ship on the horizon. I know my days were numbered when I heard the cannon thunder. Soon be faced down in the water for the Admiral's daughter. So tip your hats and away we'll go. Push away the boats and row, boys, row. Look over your shoulder for the bullet boys' guns. There's a bullet with my name on, so where we'll run. So tip my hat and away I go. And push away the boat and row, boy, row. Look over my shoulder at me own gravestone. The bullet with my name on has found its home. The bullet with my name on has found its way home. The bullet with my name on has found its way home. The bullet with my name on, oh, it's found its way home. The bullet with my name on found its way home.
I remember playing that to Robbie Williams in his house, and he said, the bullet with my name on, I like that, I like that. I think I'm going to do that. Bullet with my name on, that suits me. Alas, he did not make the folk album called Gypsy Songs. So I did one of those volume things. Yes, I do like the volumes. Poetry of Collisions Volume 1. It's track 6 on there. The Admiral's Daughter. Now, any of you fancying a... Yes, a bit of the 80s. I'm told there's nothing like the 80s. I don't know whether to believe that or not. But I had a song in Caddyshack 2. I think it was, what was it? 1988. Thank you very much there. Wikipedia is helping me. Caddyshack 2. I wrote a song with the great Cliff Magnus, and I just related as a songwriter what it is to suffer pain. On the internet it says that Caddyshack 2, made in 1988, is one of the worst sequels ever, and had 2 fucking songs on there. 2 songs. How do you think I felt? Anyway, the joy was working with Cliff, who was a genius to work with. And let me play you the 16-track demo that we did together of a track called One Way Out, recorded by Eric Martin. This is our demo with Cliff singing a great vocal.
Where we have to meet. Whoa, we're living
My goodness, listen to Cliff's vocal. I mean, recently I went onto the internet and listened to a few interviews he did, a couple of podcasts, and I didn't know anything about his history, really. When I came to America, early 80s, and worked with him, we only wrote about 2 or 3 songs together, and then we moved apart. But listening to his heritage was fantastic. I had no idea. I think he just laughed at me. He thought I was John Cleese. On a podcast that I was listening to, he said, working with Martin Page is like working with John Cleese. The Ministry of Silly Walks. I'll take it as a compliment. We had a lot of laughs. But he's such a talented musician. Everything in rock he could touch. He could play the rock guitars. He could understand how the bass went. He could sing. I mean, I was working with vocalists at that time like Tommy Thunderberg, who had a really high range. But if you listen here to what Cliff was doing, you can understand that he really could have been one of those rock lead singers in a rock band that did that kind of thing. It's interesting, really, because Cliff was also a drummer, I learnt. I wasn't sure about that. He never said he was a drummer. I think he was laughing too much, but really all round I think Cliff could have been Aerosmith Part 2. Cliff really had an affinity for rock music, and he loved it, and you could tell. It's interesting because we were talking about songwriting, and I think Cliff decided that he would sit just below the front line. I think he loves songwriting more than anything, so he was just below the radar like me. And listening to the podcast, he related to both of us actually being chameleons, that we could do rock, soul, and pop and folk and whatever. And in fact, a song we wrote together called The Children, which was recorded by Starship, is released on one of his solo albums, which is good news. So check out my mate Cliff. That's Cliff Magnus. That's really why I'm playing this song, because also I learned that Cliff had been through a very big health scare, and he beat it. He showed great courage, and I think all you songwriters out there should check him out, because music helped him dig deep, and have the strength to carry on. That's Cliff Magnus. It's definitely worth you checking him out. Now, I'd love to play you a brand new song called A Ghost in the House. Very proud of this little piece. It's from an album of mine called Zero at the Bone, a very intimate piece, and it seems the right time to play it to you. So check out my new song, A Ghost in the House.
Fragile comfort, a distant thunder, the boy of make-believe has lost his wonder. Like Emily's lamplight, something's here tonight. All I know is there's a ghost in this house. The spear that roars for blood pierces the heart of rust. The old romantic swindle, well, that was never enough. Like Emily's satellite, it's here again tonight. And all I know is there's a ghost in this house. Feel the wings of madness knocking knocking at my doors for ages. The God of fear and loss comes bearing his mighty cross like Emily's slant of light. Something's here tonight. All I know is there's a ghost in this house. A fragile comfort, waves of distant thunder, that little boy of dust slipping under like Emily's slant of light. Something's here tonight, whispering my name. There's a ghost in this house.
That's a new song. Really enjoyed playing that to you. A song called A Ghost in the House. From an album of mine called Zero at the Bone. And I was thinking then, as I was listening to it fresh, I was thinking about, there's a moody blues. There's a thing going on there. Some of those very progressive rock albums of that time, moody blues used to sometimes capture a moment. And for the first time, I thought, I can feel that here. A bit of a psychological song, if there's ever such a thing as a psychological song. Yes. Anyway, thank you for letting me debut a new song that I've been working on. A Ghost in the House from an album called Zero at the Bone. It's time! It is time! I'll be there in a minute! Okay, it's nothing to do with that. It is time for the quote of the month. And I really like this one. I've got a giggle. This is a book I'm reading, which is pretty fantastic. A Brief Eternity, The Philosophy of Longevity by Pascal Bruckner. Really, really a terrific book. And there's a quote that we are going to read here from the great Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. And he says, I find my last years fascinating. I don't feel old at all, except when I'm shaving and look at myself in the mirror. Yes, I think we all know what that's about. I certainly know what that's about. That's a great Keith Richards from a book written by Pascal Bruckner, A Brief Eternity, The Philosophy of Longevity. I highly recommend that book for people that are just saying, I don't like getting old. Why is it happening? It makes you feel rather quite positive about becoming wise and mature, like a good owl. And there they are, up in the rafters. And why is it that we look at owls and we think old and wise, great wisdom? Why is it? It's really quite interesting to think, well, we look at an owl and we say he must be 3,205 years old. Maybe it's just because of their eyes and how beautiful they really are, and their soul shines through with great wisdom. I suppose it is all down to really quite just great wisdom. That's all. Okay, I'll feed you later. That does make me want to thank you, though, all you Radio OwlHeads supporters out there. These shows are fun because a few of you out there listen. Just a few, but it's a little clan, isn't it? It's like a little nest, a little clan of people that are on the same wavelength. And so I just want to say thank you to all you OwlHeads who have been there right from the beginning. Joseph, TC and Robin and all the others. Loads of you. Matt, loads of... Rachel, Bert, Smith, Sylvester, Ted, Bartholomew. I can't remember all the names, but you're all very lovely, and I thank you. One day I shall go through all the list and mention all your names in a row. That'll take about 2 minutes. No, but probably 3 hours, something like that. And there'll be a good reason to do that, because we are at episode 47. Can you believe that? Is it? Yes, it is. I've just looked at Pro Tools. It's episode 47. Quite phenomenal. That means we're getting to 50, and that's where I stop. That's been my goal. To reach 50, that's where I say, that's it. I'm 50 years... Well, old. That's where I stop. It's always nice to reach a plateau that you thought you could never reach. So when we reach 50, we'll do something pretty special, right, gang? Yes, we will. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. I did. It's the incense. I burn all this incense in the studio. I feel spiritual, but terrible for my lungs. Lovely to have you with me. I hope you enjoyed the show. I had great fun. I hope you enjoyed the demos. Some of these songs I hadn't heard for the longest time, and it always thrills me. Remember, we always fight for animal rights, a love of my life. They do not belong to us. Animals are not ours to experiment on. Animals are not ours to eat. Animals are not ours to wear. Animals are not ours to use in the owl's nest for entertainment. And animals are not ours to abuse in any other way. Animal rights, let's fight for them. Thanks, guys. See you again next time.